So, the 3/5 clause got more rhetoric coming right up. What's up, y'all? Welcome back to Common Sense, Logic, and Reason. And as always, I want to say thank y'all for joining me today. So I got more rhetoric. The 3/5 clause is an example of historical crime. Again, black folks crying about stuff from the past that's absolutely, completely, totally irrelevant to today. And, time and time I have to revisit old examples of rhetoric because you constantly hear it. And I just recently heard someone use the 3/5 clause as evidence of racism. And like I said, just compelled me to make another video. Again, I got to keep putting this information out there so that if you ever run into that nonsense, you'll be able to destroy it on arrival. Anyway, to set the stage, back when we went to war with the Crown and we went out independence, now our founding fathers basically, they were hammering out the laws of the country, which now we know as the Constitution. And as you know, when it comes down to delegates in the Electoral College, each state is given a representation, a number. If you ever watched the presidential election night, each state have a number associated with it. Now that number is based off of the total population of the state. Each state gets a one delegate for, I don't know what the formula is, but the more people you have in your state, the bigger the number is going to be. So in that regard, having a larger population means that your state has more influence on the presidential election when it comes down to Electoral College. And it also goes with the House and the Senate. Now the House, each state gets 2 House members, regardless of the size of the state. But when it comes down to the Senate, you get you get senators based off the size of the number of people in your state. So it benefits the state to have a larger population. Now, when our founding fathers were putting together the Constitution and creating the laws, the South, wanted the slaves to be counted as one. Obviously, why they would want that, because that means that their state has more influence. Now, the North, on the other hand, didn't want slaves counted because they weren't free. So how do you count someone who's not free as basically as representation? Their property. Would you want your livestock also to count in as representation? Well, a compromise was reached, and that compromise was all slaves will represent 3/5 of a person when it comes down to the delegates. So one slave is amounted to a little bit more than one person. Now, what it did not say was that, in other words, it said that each slave would be 3/5 of a delegate. It didn't say that a slave was 3/5 of a person. It didn't say a black person was 3/5 of a person, because a black person who was free accounted for one delegate. And of course, like I said, the North didn't want any. The South wanted all. This was a compromise they came with, and that we know as the 3/5 clause. Now, many blacks, as I always say, use the past to fuel the erase anger of the day. They will draw back on that and say, well, at one point in time, they thought that we were 3/5 of a man. Again, that's not what it was. That's BS. It didn't say that blacks were 3/5 of a man. It said that slaves get 3/5 of a representation when it comes down to delegates. And what I don't understand, the part that's killing me, is that the exact same people that bitch, moans, and whines about the racist South are the people who cry about this. Basically a compromise that limit the power of the racist South. Again, that goes to show you that these people know absolutely nothing, or they pretend not to know absolutely nothing. And the person who I heard say this wasn't some idiotic, brainwashed black person that who cares about? It was a black lawyer who said this. That goes to show you, to think that a lawyer wouldn't know better than this, or at least would pretend to know better than this. But this is someone who will be held up as, I guess, an accomplished person, but they don't know the law. They don't know the history, and yet they're spouting this off, saying that one time and I'm pretty sure, I don't know who you are, but you've heard a black person say this at one time, that they thought of us as 3/5 of man, even though it was only slaves. And the South the North was like, well, hey, if you want to be represented as one, free them. But like I say, it just absolutely amazed me how these people, they argue. When I talk about how stupid a lot of these brainwashed a lot of these blacks are, and how ridiculous a lot of these race hustlers are, because it's mostly the race hustlers who keep hyping this stuff up. Many of them do it for profit. Some of them really believe it. But at the end of the day, the 3/5 clause is completely, totally irrelevant to today, because there are no more slaves. Slavery ended over 150 years ago. So that law is absolutely irrelevant, but people keep crying about it. It's beyond belief. Anyway, y'all, if you ever hear any of these race hustlers crying about black folks with 3/5 of a man, well, now you know, and knowing is half the battle. And as always, y'all, until next time.